The Crystal Palace floated above the Velran homeworld like a jewel in the darkness of space. Inside its grand hall, thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered for the most important event in recent history. Earth's delegation was about to formally request membership in the Galactic Council. Taeyang stood near the refreshment table, trying to look invisible. He wasn't supposed to be part of the main delegation. He was just an engineer who got pulled into this diplomatic mess because he happened to design the new Earth Embassy's power systems. His friend, Do-hyun, the actual diplomat, kept shooting him warning glances from across the room. "Stop drinking that," Do-hyun whispered when he finally made his way over. "You know Velran crystal wine is twice as strong as anything from Earth." Taeyang shrugged and took another sip. "It tastes like strawberries and starlight. I'm fine." He wasn't fine. The Velrans had spent the entire evening showing off. Their technology, their art, their combat skills, their 1,000-year-old empire. Every demonstration came with the same underlying message. Humanity was young, primitive, and should be grateful for even being considered. The crowd suddenly fell silent. Princess Kira stepped into the center of the hall. She wore armor that seemed to be made of living metal, shifting colors with each movement. Her silver hair was pulled back in an elaborate style that probably took hours. Everything about her screamed royalty and power. "Honored guests," she began, her voice carrying across the vast space without any visible amplification. "The Velran Empire has defended the galaxy for 10,000 years. Our warriors are unmatched. Our discipline is absolute." She moved into a fighting stance. Her hands blurred through a series of strikes and blocks, each movement precise and controlled. The air itself seemed to ripple around her fists. When she finished, she looked directly at the human delegation. "This is the foundation of Velran's strength. The form of broken stars. It takes our warriors 20 years to master." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Perhaps one of our newest potential members would like to attempt it?" A simple demonstration of effort. The way she said effort made it clear she expected failure. A graceful, embarrassing failure that would remind everyone where humans stood in the galactic hierarchy. Taeyang felt his jaw tighten. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the weeks of barely hidden condescension. Maybe it was just who he was. But he found himself walking forward before Do-hyun could stop him. "I'll try," he said simply. Princess Kira's smile widened. "Excellent. Please, do your best." Taeyang had practiced martial arts since he was 7. Nothing fancy. Just practical self-defense and exercise. He watched her stance again in his mind, breaking it down into components. Weight distribution, strike angles, recovery positions. It was like analyzing a machine, finding the moving parts. He copied her opening stance. Then, instead of following her exact movements, he flowed into a combination he actually knew, a low sweep that transitioned into a rising elbow, spinning into a back kick, ending in a grappling position. He added a flourish at the end, a little showboating flip he'd learned in college. The hall was quiet. Then someone laughed. One of the insectoid delegates from the Outer Rim. Then another alien joined in. Princess Kira's face darkened. "You did not perform the form of broken stars." "You're right," Taeyang said, the wine making him bold and stupid. "I did something better. Adaptable. Practical." He mimicked her earlier stance, with exaggerated slowness. 20 years to learn something that rigid? Maybe you've been resting on your reputation too long." The laughter stopped immediately. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Yuna, his childhood friend and fellow delegate, grabbed his arm. "Taeyang, what are you doing?" she hissed, but it was too late. Princess Kira stepped forward, her face a mask of barely controlled rage. "You dare mock the crown princess of the Velran Empire? In front of the entire Galactic Council?" Taeyang's wine-induced confidence evaporated. He suddenly realized how badly he'd messed up. I didn't mean..." Silence. Kira's voice cut through the air like a blade. She turned to the assembled delegates. "This human has committed an unforgivable insult. By ancient Velran law, he has two choices. She raised one hand. First, he can face execution for his crime against the crown. It will be quick and painless. She raised her other hand. Second, he can enter the proving grounds. For 1 month, he will face trials designed for Velran warriors. If he completes them all, his insult will be forgiven, and his species will be judged worthy of respect. And if he fails? Asked Do-hyun, his voice tight. Princess Kira smiled coldly. If he fails even one trial, Earth's petition to join the Galactic Council will be rejected. Your species will be quarantined to your solar system. For the next century, no trade, no travel, no contact with galactic civilization. The Earth delegation erupted in protests. Yuna was arguing with the nearest Velran official. Do-hyun looked like he wanted to strangle Tae-young. The other alien delegates watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Tae-young felt the weight of billions of lives settling on his shoulders. Because of his pride. Because of too much wine and too little sense. He'd just gambled humanity's entire future. The choice must be made now, Princess Kira said. Execution or the proving grounds. Tae-young looked at Do-hyun, at Yuna, at the other humans who'd worked so hard to get Earth to this point. He thought about everyone back home who didn't even know their fate was being decided in this crystal palace above an alien world. He'd started this. He had to finish it. I choose the proving grounds, he said, his voice stronger than he felt. Princess Kira nodded slowly. So be it. You will be transported to the facility immediately. You may have 1 hour to speak with your people and prepare. She turned to the council. Let it be recorded. The human Tae-young has chosen trial by ordeal. May the universe judge his worth. As Velran guards moved forward to escort him out, Tae-young caught one last glimpse of the princess. For just a moment, he thought he saw something other than anger in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Or anticipation. Then she turned away, and he was being led from the hall. Do-hyun caught up to him in the corridor outside. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, Tae-young said quietly. I've made the biggest mistake of my life. That's not what I mean. Do-hyun grabbed his shoulders. The proving grounds haven't been used in 500 years. Most species that attempt them don't survive. And you, he stopped, his voice breaking slightly. You're just an engineer. You design power systems. You're not a soldier, or an athlete, or a genius. I know. Tae-young met his friend's eyes. But I'm adaptable. That has to count for something. Yuna appeared, her face pale but determined. We have an hour. I pulled everything the galactic database has on the proving grounds. It's not much, but it's something. She held up a datapad. We're going to use every second we have to prepare you. Tae-young took the pad, his hands surprisingly steady. He'd mocked an alien princess and doomed himself to a month of trials that could end humanity's dreams of joining the stars. But he wasn't dead yet, and if there was one thing humans were good at, it was surviving against impossible odds. Okay, he said. Let's get started. Behind them, through the crystal walls of the palace, Earth hung in the distance. A small blue marble that held everything he was fighting for. Tae-young turned his back on it and walked toward whatever hell the Velrans had prepared. The real test was just beginning. The transport ship dropped Tae-young at the proving grounds just before dawn. The facility was enormous. A biodome complex that stretched beyond the horizon. Through the transparent sections of the ceiling, he could see the Velran homeworld's 3 moons hanging in the purple sky. Overseer Ven met him at the entrance. The old Velran had scars covering half his face, and walked with a slight limp. I am master of these grounds, he said in heavily accented but clear human speech. I have seen 200 warriors attempt the trials. 73 survived. Encouraging, Tae-young muttered. You will face 3 physical challenges first, Ven continued, ignoring the comment. Then 3 mental trials. Then 1 final test. He looked Tae-young up and down. You are small, weak. Your bones are fragile compared to ours. I do not expect you to survive the first day. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Ven's expression softened slightly. I do not say this to be cruel. I say it so you understand what you face. The trials were designed for Velrans, not for humans. He paused. However, Princess Kira has authorized limited communication with your homeworld. You may receive advice, but no physical assistance. A small hologram projector was attached to Taeyang's wrist. He tapped it, and Yuna's face appeared, grainy but clear. Behind her, he could see Do-hyun and several others crowded around. We're here, she said. Whatever you need, we'll find it. The first trial began within the hour. Ven led Taeyang to a massive doorway marked with Velran symbols. The gravity maze. You must reach the center and retrieve a crystal marker. The path shifts. Gravity changes. Most Velrans completed in 4 hours. The door opened. Taeyang stepped inside. The maze was a nightmare of floating platforms, twisting corridors, and sudden drops into nothing. As soon as he stepped onto the first platform, gravity lurched sideways. He slammed into what had been a wall, which was now the floor. His ribs screamed in protest. Okay, he gasped, activating his communicator. I need help understanding the pattern. Back on Earth, Ji-hoon's voice came through. The military officer sounded calm and focused. Describe what you're seeing. Every detail. Taeyang started moving, narrating everything. The way the platforms glowed before gravity shifted. The humming sound that changed pitch. The slight temperature variations. Ji-hoon and the team started building a model, looking for patterns. After an hour of being thrown around like a rag doll, Taeyang finally understood. The maze wasn't random. It was a wave pattern, like ocean swells. If he moved with the shifts instead of fighting them, he could use the gravity changes to propel himself forward. He stopped trying to walk normally. Instead, he jumped, rolled, and even fell deliberately, letting the shifting gravity carry him. When gravity reversed and tried to slam him into the ceiling, he was already tucking into a roll that sent him sliding across the platform toward the next section. 3 hours and 42 minutes after entering, he emerged from the maze holding the crystal marker. Overseer Ven looked surprised. You are faster than average, the old Velran admitted. Taeyang collapsed on the ground, every muscle trembling. How long until the next trial? You have 6 hours to rest. 6 hours later, bruised and exhausted, Taeyang faced the second trial. The Predator's Hunt. Ven explained the rules simply. Survive 48 hours in a jungle biome, while 3 Velran apex predators hunted him. They were called Razorbacks. Massive, 6-legged creatures with natural armor and claws that could shred steel. Velrans survive through superior strength and reflexes, Ven said. They fight the predators directly. He looked at Taeyang. You cannot do this. I suggest you run and hide. The jungle door opened. Taeyang stepped inside, and immediately the temperature jumped to uncomfortable levels. The air was thick and humid. Strange plants with purple leaves surrounded him on all sides. Yuna, he whispered into his communicator. I need a crash course in alien animal behavior. Fast. For the next hour, Yuna fed him information while he moved through the jungle. Razorbacks were ambush predators. They had excellent hearing but poor eyesight. They hunted in coordinated packs but maintained individual territories within that pack structure. Taeyang couldn't outfight them, but maybe he could outthink them. He spent the first 6 hours setting up a network of simple traps using vines and rocks. Nothing that would kill a razorback, but things that would make noise and create confusion. Then he found a stream and followed it upstream until he discovered a small cave behind a waterfall. Inside the cave were small, lizard-like creatures with bioluminescent scales. They scattered when he entered, but he noticed something interesting. They weren't afraid of him. They were territorial, curious. Yuna, if I had a creature that was territorial but not aggressive, could I use it as an early warning system? Theoretically, yes. If you could communicate that you're not a threat to their territory. Taeyang spent hours sitting perfectly still near the lizard creatures, letting them get used to him. He shared some of his ration bars, breaking off tiny pieces. Slowly, they began treating him as part of the cave environment. When the Razorbacks found his trail the next day, the lizards reacted to their approach with flashing scales and high-pitched chirps. Taeyong had minutes of warning instead of seconds. He led the predators on a chase through his trap network. Every time a Razorback triggered a trap, it roared and changed direction. The pack's coordination broke down. They started snapping at each other, confused by the noise and disturbance. Taeyong made it back to the cave. The Razorbacks circled the waterfall but wouldn't enter. The water disrupted their scent tracking, and the lizards' warning signals made them cautious. 48 hours after entering, Taeyong walked out of the jungle biome, exhausted but alive. All 3 Razorbacks were still in there, frustrated and confused. Overseer Ven actually smiled. "You did not fight them. You turned them against each other and hid behind smaller creatures." He nodded slowly. "Clever. Weak, but clever." The third physical trial came 2 days later, after Taeyong had recovered somewhat. The Void Walk. Ven showed him a basic spacesuit and pointed to a space station visible through the biodome ceiling. "A critical system needs repair on the exterior of that station. You must perform the repair during a solar flare. The radiation will be significant." "Velrans have natural radiation resistance," Taeyong said. "Humans don't." "Correct." Taeyong examined the suit. It was basic, designed for short walks in safe conditions. The solar flare would cook him alive in this thing. He contacted Sora, a human xeno-engineer, who'd been following his progress. "I need to modify a spacesuit with whatever materials are on that station. Can you walk me through it?" The spacewalk was terrifying. Taeyong had never been in zero gravity before. Every movement sent him spinning until he learned to control his momentum. He reached the station and found the damaged system, a power relay that had burned out. The solar flare warning came through. 8 minutes until it hit. Working frantically, Taeyong pulled components from nearby systems, magnetic coils, a reflective panel from a damaged solar array, a radiation sensor from a defunct science module. Following Sora's instructions, he jury-rigged a makeshift electromagnetic shield around himself. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't even proper engineering. But when the solar flare washed over the station, the magnetic field deflected enough of the radiation that the suit could handle the rest. Mostly, the repair took 7 minutes. The exposure still put him in medical for 3 days, vomiting and shaking from radiation sickness. But he'd completed the task. Princess Kira visited him in the medical bay. It was the first time she'd appeared since the trials began. She looked at him lying in the recovery pod, pale and weak. "You should be dead," she said simply. "I'm adaptable," Taeyong croaked. "Yes," she said quietly. "You are." She turned to leave, then paused. "The galaxy is watching. You know, every trial is being broadcast. There are betting pools on whether you'll survive. Some aliens are cheering for you. Great. Fan club. Don't let it distract you. The physical trials are finished. Now comes something harder." She looked back at him. "The mental trials break warriors stronger than you. They will dig into your mind and find every weakness, every fear, every regret." "Can't wait," Taeyong said, closing his eyes. When he opened them again, she was gone. Through the medical bay window, he could see Earth in the distance. Still there. Still waiting. 3 trials down. 3 to go. And he was still alive. That had to count for something. Taeyong had 5 days to recover from the radiation exposure before the mental trials began. During that time, messages flooded in from Earth. His mother sent a tearful video. His old engineering professor offered encouragement. Do-hyun reported that Earth's petition to the Council was on hold until the trials concluded. But support was building from unexpected allies among the other species. "You've become a symbol," Do-hyun explained through the communicator. "The underdog. Species that felt overlooked by the great empires are watching you prove that creativity beats raw power." "No pressure," Taeyong muttered. "Nari, the human psychologist assigned to monitor his mental state, appeared on his screen. The next trials are going to be different. They'll attack your mind, not your body. I need you to be honest with me. What are you most afraid of? Taeyang thought about it. Failing everyone. Being the reason humanity gets locked out of the stars. Deeper than that. He was quiet for a long moment. Being alone. Not being good enough. Finding out that I'm just ordinary. Nari nodded. Remember those fears. The trials will use them against you. But knowing they're coming gives you power over them. The first mental trial was called the memory prison. Overseer Ven led Taeyang to a small chamber with a single chair in the center. You will be placed in sensory deprivation. Your mind will create its own reality. Most Velrans endure 48 hours. If you can last 72, you pass. And if I can't, you will beg to be released, and you will fail. They strapped him into the chair. The lights went out. Sound disappeared. He couldn't feel the chair beneath him, or the straps holding him. There was nothing. Absolute nothing. At first, it was peaceful. Then his mind started filling the void. He saw his father, who died when Taeyang was 15. You were never good enough, the hallucination said. Not as a son. Not as an engineer. And now you're going to fail the entire human race. Taeyang knew it wasn't real. But the voice sounded so much like his father that it hurt anyway. The hallucinations came faster. His mother crying. Yuna screaming at him for ruining her career. Do-hyun walking away in disgust. Earth burning because he'd failed. Time lost meaning. He could have been in the darkness for hours or days. The visions became more elaborate. He was back on Earth. But everyone avoided him. Children pointed and laughed. His engineering designs failed catastrophically, killing thousands. But then something shifted in his mind. He remembered what Nari said. These were his fears. His mind creating them. If his mind could create the nightmares, maybe it could create something else. Okay, he said out loud to the darkness. Let's talk about this. He started arguing with his hallucinations. When his father appeared to criticize him, Taeyang talked back. You died before I could prove myself to you. That's not my fault. I've spent years trying to live up to a memory, but I'm my own person now. When the vision of Earth burning appeared, he examined it logically. This isn't real. The real Earth is waiting for me to succeed. This is just fear. I acknowledge the fear, but I don't have to obey it. The hallucinations didn't stop. But they lost some of their power. Taeyang turned the memory prison into something strange. A philosophical debate with himself. Every fear that surfaced, he acknowledged, examined, and either accepted or rejected. When they finally pulled him out, 80 hours had passed. He'd exceeded the requirement by 8 hours because he'd lost track of time while working through personal demons he'd been avoiding for years. Overseer Ven looked at him with something approaching respect. You are the first to treat the memory prison as a learning experience rather than an endurance test. Taeyang stumbled out of the chair, his legs weak. Is that good or bad? It is unexpected. The second mental trial came 3 days later. The diplomatic simulation. Taeyang was placed in a room with 4 holographic representatives of different alien factions, all at war with each other. The AI controlling them was sophisticated, designed to be unreasonable and hostile. You must negotiate peace, Ven explained. Velrans typically achieve this through force. They identify the strongest faction and help them dominate the others. That's not peace, that's conquest. It is Velran peace. You have 24 hours. The 4 factions were nightmares to deal with. The hive mind species valued collective survival above all. The lone wanderers rejected any permanent agreements as violations of individual freedom. The resource collective only cared about economic gain. The honor clans would rather die than compromise their cultural values. Taeyang spent the first 6 hours just listening to them argue, taking notes. He contacted Hana, the human historian, through his communicator. I need to find common ground between completely incompatible value systems. You're looking at it wrong, Hana said. You don't need them to agree on values. You need them to need each other. Taeyang started mapping out the economic interdependencies between the factions. The hive mind produced food efficiently but needed metals. The resource collective controlled the metals but needed protection. The honor clans provided military strength but needed advanced technology. The lone wanderers had the technology but needed distribution networks. Instead of trying to make them like each other, he created a trade framework where war became economically impossible. If the hive mind attacked the resource collective, they'd lose their metal supply. If the honor clans broke the peace, they'd lose access to technology. He presented the framework. The AI factions argued for hours, finding loopholes and problems. Taeyang adjusted, refined, and rebuilt the framework in real time. After 18 hours of negotiation, the simulation accepted the proposal. Then it crashed. The AI hadn't been programmed to handle a scenario where all four factions agreed to peace through mutual economic dependency rather than domination. The system literally couldn't process the outcome. Overseer Ven stared at the sparking hologram projectors. In 200 trials, no one has ever crashed the simulation. Is that a pass or a fail? It is. Ven paused. Unconventional brilliance. I mark it as a pass. The third mental trial was the worst. The sacrifice dilemma. Taeyang was shown a simulation of two ships in distress. One carried 100 Velron civilians. The other carried 50 humans, including Yuna, Dohyun, and his mother. He could only save one ship. He had to choose. The trial was designed to expose species bias, to show that ultimately, every being would choose their own kind over others. It was meant to prove that universal cooperation was impossible because self-interest would always win. Taeyang looked at the simulation for a long time. Both ships had limited life support. Both were drifting toward a debris field. Standard rescue would save one ship, the other would be destroyed within minutes of that choice. I refuse to choose, he said. You must choose. The simulation responded. This is the nature of command. Sometimes there are no good options. Then I reject the premise. Taeyang started running calculations, his fingers flying across the simulation controls. Show me the exact trajectory of both ships, the debris field pattern, the thrust capacity of a standard rescue vessel. You cannot save both ships. The math is impossible. The conventional math is impossible. But nothing is truly impossible if you're willing to accept risk. He worked for 3 hours straight, building a rescue trajectory that could save both ships. It required perfect timing, dangerous maneuvers, and accepted a 20% chance that all three ships, including the rescue vessel, would be destroyed. This plan risks everyone, the simulation warned. Yes, but it's the only plan that treats both groups of people as equally valuable. I'd rather risk failure trying to save everyone than guarantee I killed 50 humans or 100 Velrans through my choice. He executed the plan in the simulation. The rescue vessel threaded through the debris field, using precision thrust to push both distressed ships away from danger. The margins were razor thin. In 10 simulated runs, it failed twice. But in 8 runs, it worked. Everyone survived. The simulation ended. Overseer Ven was standing in the doorway with Princess Kira beside him. They'd both been watching. You were supposed to choose, Kira said softly. I chose to try to save everyone, even if it meant risking failure. That is not logical. That is not practical. No, Taeyang agreed. It's human. Kira studied him for a long moment. Then she dismissed Ven with a gesture. When they were alone, she spoke quietly. Why did you mock me? The real reason. Taeyang was exhausted, too tired for diplomacy. Because you reminded me of everything I hate. The assumption that being powerful means being superior. That age means wisdom. That tradition can't be questioned. He met her eyes. My people almost destroyed ourselves thinking we were better than each other. Different races, nations, religions, all convinced of their own superiority. I was drunk and stupid, but I won't apologize for rejecting that mindset. Kira was quiet for a long time. These trials, she said finally. They were not just punishment. They were a question I needed answered. What question? Whether younger species like humanity think differently enough to help the galaxy evolve. The Velran Empire has stagnated for thousands of years. We're powerful, but we've stopped growing. Stopped innovating. You've shown me that different thinking has value. She turned to leave. One trial remains. The Builder's Legacy. It will be the hardest because it requires you to create something genuinely new. Rest well. You'll need it. After she left, Taeyong collapsed on his bunk, 3 mental trials complete. But the final challenge loomed ahead, and he had no idea what he could possibly create that would impress a civilization 10,000 years old. Outside his window, the stars seemed to mock him with their indifference. The announcement of the final trial drew attention from across the galaxy. Overseer Ven summoned Taeyong to the central arena of the Proving Grounds, where a massive holographic display showed thousands of alien faces watching. Princess Kira stood on a raised platform, her expression unreadable. The Builder's Legacy, she announced, her voice carrying across the arena and through countless broadcasts. This trial has not been issued in 500 years. It is simple and impossible at the same time. She gestured, and a holographic timer appeared, showing 7 days. The human Taeyong must create something that improves the Velran Empire itself, not through force, not through conquest, through genuine innovation. He cannot simply replicate existing human technology. It must be original, the crowd murmured. Even through the hologram, Taeyong could feel the weight of their skepticism. What could a human engineer possibly create that a 10,000-year-old empire hadn't already invented? The creation will be judged by a panel of experts from multiple species, Kira continued. If they determine it has true value, he passes. If not, he fails everything. She looked directly at Taeyang. The timer begins now. The first 3 days were agony. Taeyang filled dozens of datapads with ideas and discarded them all. A new power generation method? The Velrans had fusion, antimatter, and things humans hadn't even theorized yet. A new propulsion system? They traveled between stars like humans drove cars. Medical advances? Communication improvements? Weapons? The Velrans had perfected all of it centuries ago. He contacted everyone he could think of. Yuna suggested biological innovations. Sora offered engineering concepts. Ji-hoon proposed military applications. Hana provided historical context. Nothing seemed good enough. On the 3rd night, Taeyong sat alone in his quarters, staring at a blank screen. His hands shook slightly. Not from fear, but from the crushing weight of self-doubt. He wasn't a genius inventor. He was just an engineer who designed power systems. What made him think he could create something worthy of impressing the galaxy? You look terrible, Overseer, Ven said from the doorway. Taeyong didn't even turn around. Thanks. Ven walked in, uninvited, and sat down. I have watched many warriors face the Proving Grounds. Most fail because they try to be Velran. They try to match our strength, our precision, our perfection. I'm not trying to be Velran. No, but you are trying to be more than you are. Ven leaned back. Why do you think Princess Kira designed these trials? Not to see if humans could match Velran abilities, to see if humans thought differently. We do think differently. And it's still not enough. Is it not? Ven gestured at the empty workspace. You are stuck because you are trying to create something perfect. Something that will make the Velrans gasp in awe. But that is our weakness, not our strength. Taeyong finally looked at him. What do you mean? We Velrans are obsessed with perfection. With never showing weakness. It has made us rigid. Unable to adapt when our perfect systems encounter imperfect situations. He stood up. Perhaps what we need is not more perfection. Perhaps we need permission to be imperfect. After Ven left, Taeyong sat in silence. Permission to be imperfect. The words echoed in his mind. He called Do-hyun on his communicator. Tell me about evolution. How does it work? What? Taeyong, it's 3 in the morning here. Please, just tell me. Do-hyun sighed and explained. Evolution didn't seek perfect solutions. It generated countless variations, most of them failures, and kept the ones that worked well enough. It was messy, inefficient, but incredibly adaptable. Nature didn't optimize for perfection. It optimized for survival. Taeyang spent the next hour talking to Sora about swarm intelligence. How ant colonies and beehives solved problems through collective chaos, rather than central planning. He spoke with Nari about how human brains worked, making decisions through competing neural networks, rather than pure logic. An idea began to form. Not elegant, not perfect, but human. He worked through the night and the next day. Using principles from evolutionary biology, swarm intelligence, and neural networks, he designed a new type of artificial intelligence architecture. Unlike traditional AI that sought optimal solutions, this one generated diverse, good enough solutions that could rapidly adapt to changing conditions. He called it the Messy Mind Protocol. It wasn't a single perfect program. It was thousands of small programs that competed, cooperated, and evolved in real time. When faced with a problem, it didn't calculate the best answer. It tried multiple approaches simultaneously and kept the ones that worked, even if they weren't optimal. On the seventh day, exhausted and running on stimulants, Taeyang presented his creation to the panel of judges. They sat in a semicircle. A Velran scientist, an insectoid mathematician, a crystalline philosopher, and three others representing different species. This is the Messy Mind Protocol, Taeyang explained, bringing up a demonstration. It manages complex systems, not through perfection, but through adaptability. He showed them a simulation of a Velran city. The power grid, traffic flow, waste management, and emergency services all running through traditional perfect algorithms. Everything hummed along efficiently. Then he introduced a crisis, a massive power failure in one district. The traditional systems tried to maintain perfect flow, redistributing power according to optimal calculations. But the math didn't work. The system cascaded into wider failures, trying desperately to maintain impossible perfection. Within 10 minutes, half the city was dark. Now watch, Taeyang said, resetting the simulation with his protocol running. The same power failure occurred. But instead of trying to maintain perfection, the Messy Mind Protocol accepted the failure. It immediately reorganized, creating inefficient but functional power routes. Traffic was rerouted through non-optimal paths. Emergency services adapted on the fly, using whatever resources were available rather than waiting for the perfect allocation. The city stayed running. It was messy, inefficient, and chaotic, but it worked. The judges conferred quietly. The Velran scientist looked skeptical. This reduces overall efficiency by 3% during normal operations. Yes, Taeyang admitted. But it increases crisis survival by over 40%. It trades perfection for resilience. This is not elegant, the crystalline philosopher said, their voice like chimes. No, it's evolution. It's nature. It's human. The insectoid mathematician clicked their mandibles thoughtfully. Our hive faces similar challenges. Perfect planning fails when conditions change unpredictably. This approach mirrors how our colonies actually function beneath the theoretical optimum. 8 people. The debate lasted for hours. Taeyang stood there, swaying slightly from exhaustion, while they discussed the implications. Some judges saw value. Others called it primitive. The room was divided. Finally, Princess Kira stood up. As the one who'd issued the challenge, she had the final vote. I have watched this human for a month, she said slowly. He has survived trials designed to kill him. Not through superior strength, but through adaptation. Through accepting his limitations and working within them. Through being imperfect and making it work. Through being imperfect. Through being imperfect. She looked at Taeyang. This protocol embodies that philosophy. It gives us permission to be imperfect. And in doing so, it shows us how to grow again. She raised her hand. I vote to pass. The human has created something of value. The chamber erupted. Some judges protested, others applauded. But the decision was made. Taeyang's legs gave out, and he sat down hard on the floor. 1 month. 6 trials. And he'd survived them all. Overseer Ven helped him stand. You did it. I can't believe it's over. It is not over, Ven said with a slight smile. Now comes the hard part. The consequences. Princess Kira approached, and for the first time since the beginning, she smiled at him. Not a cold diplomatic smile, but something genuine. You have proven humanity's worth. The Galactic Council will vote on Earth's petition tomorrow. Thank you, Taeyang managed to say. Do not thank me yet. You have embarrassed me in front of the galaxy, forced me to question my empire's assumptions, and created something that will require us to change how we think. Her smile widened. I am not sure if I should reward you or challenge you to another trial. Please, no more trials. Then we will call it a reward. She extended her hand in a human gesture. Welcome to the galactic community, Engineer Taeyang. Try not to mock any more princesses. He shook her hand, feeling the strength in her grip. I make no promises. As he was led away to finally rest, Taeyang looked up at the holographic display. Earth hung in the distance. Still there. Still waiting. And now, finally, the door to the stars was opening. He'd mocked an alien princess. He'd been given an impossible ultimatum, and somehow, imperfectly, messily, humanly, he'd survived. 3 months after the trials ended, Taeyang stood in the Galactic Council chambers watching history unfold. The massive room held representatives from 200 species, all gathered for the formal vote on Earth's petition. The debates had been intense. Some species argued that humanity was too young, too volatile, too dangerous. Others pointed to Taeyang's performance in the proving grounds as evidence that humans brought valuable new perspectives. The vote took 6 hours of discussion before the council president finally called for a decision. All in favor of granting Earth full membership in the Galactic Council? Lights appeared across the chamber as delegates voted. Green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstention. Taeyang held his breath as the votes tallied. The final count appeared on the main display. 73% in favor. Earth was in. The human delegation erupted in celebration. Do-hyun grabbed Taeyang in a crushing hug. Yuna was crying and laughing at the same time. Even the normally stoic Ji-hoon was smiling. Messages flooded in from Earth, where billions of people were watching. The streets of major cities filled with celebrating crowds. Princess Kira approached the human delegation, accompanied by a full Velran honor guard. She bowed formally to Do-hyun, the senior diplomat. On behalf of the Velran Empire, I welcome humanity to the galactic community. May our species find mutual benefit and growth. Then she turned to Taeyang. May I speak with you privately? They walked to a balcony overlooking the capital city of the council homeworld. Below them, the city stretched for hundreds of miles, a testament to thousands of years of civilization. Above, ships from countless species crossed the sky. You have become quite famous, Kira said. Do you know that 3 different species have requested you as a cultural liaison? 2 universities want you to lecture. And someone is trying to make a holographic drama about the trials. Quote, please tell me they're not. They are. I have seen the preliminary scripts. They make you much more heroic and handsome than reality, and they make me unnecessarily cruel. Taeyang laughed. Were you not unnecessarily cruel? Perhaps a little. She smiled slightly. I have a proposal for you. The Velran Empire is establishing a formal exchange program with Earth. We need someone to serve as liaison, helping bridge our cultural differences. Someone who understands both species. You want me to be a diplomat? Did you not watch me for the past month? I'm terrible at diplomacy. You are terrible at traditional diplomacy, yes. But you are excellent at finding common ground through practical solutions. And you are not afraid to challenge assumptions, which is exactly what we need. Taeyang looked out at the alien city. Thank you, but no. Kira looked genuinely surprised. Why not? This position would make you one of the most influential humans in the galaxy. Because I'm not a politician, or a professional bridge builder. I'm an engineer who got drunk and made a mistake that happened to work out. He turned to face her. I survived your trials, and I'm proud of that. But I don't want to spend my life being defined by 1 month of chaos. I want to go home, design fusion reactors, maybe teach, live a normal life. There is nothing normal about you. That's the point. I want there to be. I want humans to join the galaxy not as novelties or underdogs, but as regular members who contribute and learn like everyone else. And that means going back to being just another engineer. Kira studied him for a long moment. This is why humans are valuable. You do not seek glory for its own sake. She extended her hand again. Then I wish you well. Engineer Taeyang, if you ever change your mind, the offer remains open. They shook hands, and Taeyang felt something had fundamentally shifted between them. They'd started as antagonists, moved through grudging respect during the trials, and now stood as something like friends, or at least, mutual admirers. Will you implement the Messy Mind Protocol? He asked. We already are. 3 cities are running pilot programs. The results are... She paused. Frustrating and effective. Our engineers hate how inefficient it is, but our crisis response times have improved by 43%. You have forced us to accept imperfection. We are not happy about it. Good. Happiness means you've stopped growing. She laughed. A genuine sound that surprised them both. Perhaps you should be a philosopher instead of an engineer. 6 months after the trials, Taeyang was back on Earth, working at a research facility in Seoul. He'd returned to designing fusion power systems, helping integrate human technology with the new knowledge flowing in from the galactic community. It was quiet work, technical and detailed, exactly what he loved. Yuna had taken a position on a joint human-Velran research station orbiting Mars, studying alien biology and looking impossibly happy in her video calls. Do-hyun had been promoted to senior diplomatic officer and spent his time traveling between Earth and various alien homeworlds. Ji-hoon was training the first combined human-alien peacekeeping force, teaching humans and Velrans to work together. Sora and Nari collaborated on cross-species psychological research, helping both humans and aliens understand each other better. The galaxy had changed. Humanity's dramatic entry through the proving grounds had shifted perceptions. Other younger species took heart from Taeyang's success and became more vocal in council debates. The old empires were being challenged to justify their assumptions and adapt to new perspectives. In the research facility cafeteria, Taeyang's co-workers still asked him about the trials sometimes. He'd gotten good at deflecting the questions with humor. Yes. The gravity maze was terrifying. No, he didn't feel particularly heroic. Yes, Princess Kira was impressive. No. He wasn't going back to alien trials anytime soon. One evening, while reviewing power distribution algorithms, he received a message notification. It was from Princess Kira. He hadn't heard from her in weeks. The message was brief. The Messy Mind Protocol has been implemented across 17 Velran worlds. Efficiency is down 2.4%. Crisis survivability is up 47%. Our engineers still hate it. I have been arguing with the High Council for weeks. They say it makes us look weak. I told them it makes us adaptable. They are not convinced. Help. Taeyang smiled and composed a response. Tell them perfection is a trap that prevents growth. Or tell them a drunk human said they were being stubborn. Your choice. A minute later, her reply appeared. I told them both. They are very upset. Thank you. Then another message. The liaison position remains open. Are you certain about not taking it? Taeyang looked around his small office. Blueprints covered the walls. A half-finished fusion reactor design glowed on his main screen. His coffee was cold, and he had 17 more calculations to run before the day ended. It was ordinary, unglamorous work that would never make galactic news. He typed back, I'm certain. But ask me again in a few years. I hear Velran crystal wine is excellent. And I promise to behave myself this time. You will not behave. That is why you are valuable. He laughed and returned to his work. Outside his window, The night sky was full of stars. Somewhere among them, humans were building research stations, trading with alien merchants, learning from species that had mastered space travel when humanity was still discovering fire. A year ago, he'd been nobody special, just an engineer who made a drunken mistake and mocked the wrong princess. Now he was the human who'd survived the proving grounds and changed how the galaxy saw his species. But tomorrow, he'd wake up and go back to being an engineer. He'd solve practical problems, improve existing systems, and maybe train the next generation of humans preparing for careers among the stars. No glory, no fame, just steady, useful work. On his desk sat a small hologram crystal, a gift from Overseer Ven. When activated, it showed a moment from the trials. Tai Yang and Princess Kira, shaking hands after the final challenge, both looking exhausted but genuinely smiling. Below the image, Ven had engraved a simple message in both Velran and human script. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Embrace the beautiful mess. Taeyang touched the crystal, and the hologram rotated slowly. He thought about how one stupid mistake had led to a month of hell that had changed his life and, in some small way, changed the galaxy. He returned to his fusion reactor calculations. The equations were complex, the problems challenging, and the solutions would be imperfect, but they would work. And sometimes, working was enough. 300 light-years away, on the Velran homeworld, Princess Kira stood in the palace garden, looking up at the same stars. In her hand was a datapad showing the latest efficiency reports from the Messy Mind protocol. The numbers were frustrating. The system was chaotic. It violated every principle of Velran engineering, and it was working. She smiled and sent one more message to the stubborn engineer on that distant blue world. Thank you for teaching us to be imperfect. The galaxy is better for it. On Earth, Taeyang read the message, shook his head with a smile, and went back to work. The story of the human who mocked an alien princess had ended, but the story of humanity among the stars was just beginning, and it would be messy, chaotic, imperfect, and absolutely human. Which meant it would be extraordinary.